Hello everyone, this is Professor Robert Solis. Welcome to this next video lesson. We're going to be talking about the C++ struct, and what I want to do is I want to share with you via this particular application how we're going to make a struct out of student identification, or student information, say for example. And then I'll show you how you can make an array of structures. So in this case, let's say for example that we have a struct, we call that student, and it includes as its members 2 strings, 3 integers, and a double. Now, what is a struct? It is a collection of members that can be of any type of data type. So similar to an array, I guess, but arrays have all integers, or all doubles, or all strings, or all characters. An array is a collection of all similar data types, whereas a struct can be a collection of any particular type of data type. The thing that's different about a struct and array also is that with an array you can have many items. Well, here you can have many items and then they all have members. Like over here I'm declaring CS225 student 1 to be a type of student, but this is just one student. This one student has a first name, it has a last name, it has a month, day, year, GPA, and that's it. I've only created that one student. Whereas, say for example, with an array, I can have many elements of a particular type. All right, so how do we create that struct? I think I've covered this in a previous lecture. You start off with the word struct. What is the name of this particular structure? Open and close curly braces with a semicolon, and then all of the members that are going to make up that particular struct, which in this case we call student. All right, so what am I going to do? I'm going to declare CS225 student 1 as a student. That means that this guy has all of these members. You can think of these as nouns. That's what a struct is. It's a collection of nouns. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the user to enter their first name, last name, birthday, month, day, year, and GPA. And then I'll output that data. So let me run the program so I can demonstrate that for you. So we have Robert, enter. Solis, enter. We'll say 1, 1, 2000. GPA, of course, 4.0. Enter. Hello, Robert Solis. Birthday information, 1/1/2000. Your GPA is 4. All right. So what were we able to do? We were able to ask the user to enter their name, and using that particular struct called CS225, student 1, that's a type of student. The student has a first name, as you can see over here. Student 1 has a last name, a month, a year. In other words, all of these different members. And I think I've shared with you previously that if you hit the dot operator, it gives you an access to all of the different members. And so in this case, I want the first name, say for example. Okay, so we were able to create one student, get that student's information, and then print it out with a cout statement. And then once again, I'm accessing those members. So CS225 student 1's first name in that example that I just shared with you was Robert. Last name Solis, so forth and so on. Okay, so that's a very simple explanation of how to create a struct, how to access its members for both input and output, and also output. Okay, now what I want to do is let me create a block comment. So let me start from the bottom up, and I'll go from here. Actually, let's do this. Let's go from here, and I'm going to start from here. I don't need those two. And then I'm going to uncomment this block comment to show you the second chunk of code and how it's going to work. And let me get rid of these extra spaces. Okay. Well, as you saw, the limitation of this approach is that for every single individual student that I have, I'd have to create or declare a new student. So I have a CS225 student 2, student CS225 student 3. I mean, how inefficient is that? We don't want to have to keep on creating all these individual students in this fashion. Perhaps a better way then is to create an array of students. So what do? In this particular case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a student. So we know what a student is. It's a collection, a struct specifically that has all these members. And my CS111 students are going to be an array of this particular student structure. So this is what we'll do. You know how to declare an array. So in this global area, I created a constant called number of students. In this case, I just have 2 students. All right, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create 2 CS111 students. And this array notation will help me keep track of which student I'm talking about, either the first one or the second one. So that's how you make structs even more powerful. You just simply create an array of them. So this is really cool because, arrays, they have their pros and cons. Struct, they have their pros and cons. But bringing them together, wow, now you have something really powerful. You can use the power of the array to create a collection of items. You can use the power of the struct, which is to have multiple data types within that struct. And now you can do something like this. And in essence, what you're doing is kind of creating a database of students in this particular case. All right, so once I've declared CS111 students as an array of students, right, specifically 2 of them, let's go down over here at the code and see what happens. Well, now I get to use for loops. Remember I was telling you in previous lectures about arrays that arrays and for loops, they just go hand in hand. Well, that's no exception here. What I'm going to do is make sure to get the information first of every student. So we'll let I be an integer that starts at 0, and as long as I, our counter, is less than the number of students, then we're going to keep on propagating through this for loop, and we're going to increment it one by one, as you see with the I++ here. All right, first, the question. Student, okay, so I can't say 0, so I put I plus 1, so I'll say student 1, enter your first name. All right, that means that for the CS111 students struct, which is this is an array of that particular struct, specifically the 0 element of that particular struct, dot, I want your first name. So when you enter that data, we're going to put this into the first name for this particular student. It'll be the 0 index of CS111 students. We'll do the same thing for all the other data that we want. The last name, birthday, month, day, year, GPA, all of that is going to be going into CS111 students 0. Then we go back over here, I++ means that the counter now goes to 1. And so now, since 1 is less than the number of students, which is 2 in this case, we're going to ask for student, and this will be 1 plus 2, so we'll say this will be student 2, enter your first name. And then that will go into CS111 students. This will be the number 1, which is the second element in our array. And I'm going to access specifically the member item, first name over here, last name over here, month, day, year, GPA. Once I have obtained all of the data via the for statement, now I can use an output statement and I can simply format it. So this \T is the same thing as hitting tab on your keyboard. It's an escape sequence that just allows a certain number of spaces. I think maybe 8 to 10. So it'll say first name with a bunch of spaces, then last name with a bunch of spaces. This is my header row, so to speak. Then within the for statement, once again, I declare a counter, I, and as long as I is less than the number of students, and we're going to I++ to propagate through all of the list of students that we have. Notice what I'll do. From the CS111 students array of that particular structure, for the 0 index, I'm going to print or send out that person's first name. So dot first name is what I'm accessing. I'm tabbing twice to give enough space for the last name, tabbing twice to give space for the month, day, year, and then finally the GPA. All right, so let me just run the program so you can see what it looks like. I know that I have 2 students, so it's going to ask me the information for 2 students. So student 1, enter your first name. Okay, we'll say Robert Solis, 2000, and your GPA is 4.0. Student 2, enter your first name. Okay, so we'll say Joshua Solis, 2002. Enter your GPA, 3.9. Enter. So now, with those /t/t, you can see how I've formatted the data. First name column, last name column, month, day, year, GPA. It's going to list the information for the student 1 and also student 2, as you can see here. Okay, so that's how the program works. That's how you create an array of structures. Now what I want to do is just stop the code so we can take a look at this to see what it's actually going to look like. Let me stop the code right here as we enter into this get the user input section. I'll run the program, and as you can see, we've stopped right here. Right now I'm about to send out information. Specifically, I want student 1 to enter their first name. So as you can see, 0, or I rather, is 0. 0 plus 1 is 1. So it'll say student 1, enter your first name. Let me go ahead and step over. We are now at the cin statement. Notice what's going to happen. All right, so first of all, if I hover over here, and if I take a look specifically at our 0 index student, notice that it has all of its members. Now you can see here that first name and last name, they're not assigned to anything. Month, day, year, GPA, whatever random value happens to be in that particular memory cell at the beginning of my program, that's what it's displaying over here. All of this is about to be populated with the data that I'm about to give to it. All right, so let me go ahead and step over again. And now I have to enter the person's first name, so I put Robert, enter. We are now over here where we're going to ask student 1 to enter their last name. Okay, so before I continue, let me just simply hover over here and take a look at the students, specifically the 0 index. And now you'll see that Robert is in the first name. We haven't finished last name, month, day, year, so forth and so on. Okay, so that's how we are populating this particular structure. Now let me go ahead and continue, and then I can just populate the rest of the data really fast. So we'll say Solis 1/1/2000 4.0. All right, now we're back over here getting ready for the next student. Now if I go over here and take a look at index 0 for this particular array, which is a structure, you'll see now that it has all this information. Robert, Solis 1/1/2000 4.0. And now we're about to do the same thing with the second student. So if I were to continue, it would just simply allow the student to enter their information for student number 2. And then back over here, this is simply going to display the information. And that's it. Okay. So this is Professor Robert Solis. I hope this video lesson was helpful. Have a good day. See you next time.